Some stories don't start with a big decision. They begin with small, everyday mistakes. And those mistakes? They often teach you the most. Not just about life, but about language too. That's why I believe that storytelling is one of the most powerful ways to learn English. It helps you feel words, not just memorize them. Let me tell you the story of the time I accidentally switched shoes with a stranger, and found something inside that made me stop in my tracks. It was during my solo trip to Japan. I had been staying at a quiet guest house in Kyoto. The place was traditional, with sliding doors, tatami mats, and of course, a small wooden step at the entrance where everyone had to take off their shoes. The genkan, as they call it, is where all guests left their shoes neatly side by side before entering the main area. No shoes were allowed beyond that point. That morning, I woke up before sunrise. I had an early train to Osaka and didn't want to miss it. I crept through the dark hallway, still half asleep, carrying my backpack and trying not to wake anyone. The lights were dim, and I could barely see the shoes lined up at the entrance. I spotted a familiar-looking pair of black sneakers, slipped them on quickly, tied the laces, and rushed out the door. Outside, the city was still asleep. I walked quickly to the station and boarded the train just in time. It wasn't until I sat down on the train that something felt off. The shoes were slightly tighter than usual. I looked down. Same black color. Same brand. Even the same little scratch mark on the heel. Still, something didn't feel quite right. When I arrived in Osaka, I had an hour to kill before my meeting. I sat on a bench outside the station and finally took a closer look. That's when I noticed the zippers on the side of the shoes. Mine didn't have zippers. I slowly unzipped the side pocket of the right shoe, and that's when I found it. Tucked inside was a small, folded piece of paper. It was carefully wrapped around something flat and soft. I hesitated. My fingers tingled as I unwrapped the paper. Inside was a faded photograph, two people sitting on a beach at sunset. A man and a woman, both smiling. The photo looked old, maybe 10 years old. On the back, someone had written in English, "The last day before you left. I still think of you every time I wear these." I sat there, stunned. I wasn't just wearing someone's shoes. I was walking in their memories. Holding their past. Carrying something that clearly meant a lot. As I stared at the photo, I felt like I had opened a window into someone's private world. And it felt wrong. I didn't know this person, but I felt like I owed them something now. An apology. Or maybe, just to return what I had taken by mistake. I checked the shoe again. In a tiny fold of the paper, I found an old train ticket. The date matched the back of the photo. The destination? Kanazawa. It wasn't far from where we were. Suddenly, I didn't feel like a tourist anymore. I felt like I was part of someone else's unfinished story. I returned to the guest house that afternoon, holding the shoes in my hand. The owner greeted me at the door. I explained what had happened, described the shoes and the photo. She listened quietly, then nodded. "That must be Kenji," she said softly. "He stays here often. Always leaves early. Always wears those shoes." I waited in the common room for hours, nervous. When Kenji finally walked in, I stood up awkwardly. I think. I have your shoes. He looked at me, puzzled. Then he saw the shoes in my hand and laughed. Oh no, we switched this morning. I nodded and handed him the folded photo. He paused when he saw it. His face softened. You opened it? He asked. I did. I'm sorry, I said. He looked at me for a second, then gave a small smile. It's okay. Maybe you were meant to see it. We exchanged shoes in silence. But the weight of that moment stayed with me. Later that night, I couldn't stop thinking about how much we all carry with us. Not just memories, but emotions. And how something as simple as a pair of shoes can hold a whole story. That mistake reminded me how language, like travel, connects us in unexpected ways. You don't need perfect grammar to understand someone's heart. Sometimes, all you need is a mistake, and the courage to pay attention to what it teaches you. Now, your turn. Write a short story in English about a time when you made a mistake that led to something meaningful. Keep it in the past tense. Use simple sentences. But try to include emotion. Maybe you lost something and found something better. Maybe you misunderstood someone, and it brought you closer. And if this story helped you feel the power of language, subscribe to RealSpeak. Because real stories teach real English, one mistake at a time.